Good day, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Culture Hour. I am so excited today and kicking myself in the butt a little bit that I don't know why I've not had Jason on before as a guest. So my name is Shelly Smith. I'm the founder of Premier Rapport, all about company culture. And I founded with a partner of mine, Elizabeth Feliz, who's out on site today, a very, very fun video hour, so called the Culture Hour. So today is another episode, and I'm super excited. I work with Jason behind the scenes a little bit on one of his company ventures, but I'm excited for you to hear a little bit more about that. But more so, I'm excited for you to really hear from Jason himself. So Jason, why don't you just start by telling the group a little bit about yourself, because I don't want to spoil the surprise. I want him to hear it from you. So why don't you give a little bit of your background?
Definitely. Well, Shelly, thanks for having me on. It's a great honor and a pleasure to be on here. I'm excited as well. So my background, I'm from Northern Virginia. I was born in Washington, D.C., and I went to West Point, and I went to the United States Military Academy. Graduated in 2001. Halfway between my sophomore and junior years there, I left to serve a 2-year LDS Mormon mission to St. Petersburg, Russia. So I went and lived in Russia for 2 years and came back, and really enjoyed the culture and the people there, and just had a blast. And when you graduate from West Point, you become an officer in the military, and I got convinced to try out for the Rangers. So I volunteered to go to Ranger School and graduated in 2002. And then I went to Korea for a year, and then I was convinced to try out for the Special Forces. And so I went and tried out to be a Green Beret and earned my Green Beret in 2006. And then I served 10 years with the Special Forces, mainly at 10 Special Forces Group in Colorado Springs at Fort Carson, Colorado. I got my MBA at BYU a few years ago. I'm married. I have one daughter. She's a year and a half old. Her name's Claire Jane. And we have a company called Mission 60, and it provides unbelievable training based on our Special Forces background combined with science. So we help people become better professionally and personally through balancing their 6 intelligences or domains. And that's the mental, physical, spiritual, social, emotional, professional domains. And Shelly's an integral member of that Total Warrior model concept. And I'm so happy to be here, and it's exciting.
Well, thank you so much. And I love working with you and everybody else. I've learned so much of the behind the scenes, and still some of the stories are, not some of them, all of them take me back in a positive way, in a very thoughtful way. So I'm thrilled and honored to be talking to you today and to be a part of Mission 60 itself. So, one of the things that I thought would be great for us to talk about today is this misknown or misunderstood, missed opportunity of the skill set that really, not just special forces, special human beings such as yourself that have been both a Ranger and a Green Beret, but just the military background itself. And then I do think on a higher level, those that have been in the special forces within the various branches. But what do you, let's do a little bit of military language lessons learned into corporate language and help the viewers connect that if they're not hiring veterans, if they're not hiring people with this incredible leadership that talk about the best type of schooling, right? If they're not, and they don't know how to get at it because their resume doesn't talk corporate jargon, let's help them. Let's help them with that. Because I get phone calls all the time with, who do you know, and how can I work with more military and get them into organizations? So let's talk about that. One thing, if the viewers watch one of the recent episodes, Dr. Sarah Spradlin, who's also a part of Mission 60 and Emotional Intelligence, we talked about this thing about resilience. And obviously, resilience is to me the foundation of what anybody who has served comes out with. So the things that pop to mind, I actually need a few notes that I want you to speak to.
Okay.
It's my understanding that in the military, that when we talk about change, and we talk about change happening constantly, that obviously that's definitely live in the military. So I'd like to hear about that, number one. Number two, that every 2 or 3 years at the very most, you're switching teams, you're getting new bosses. So I would love for you to talk to the audience about change management, the team building, and managing stress the things that you learn in the military that you now know translate into the corporate world. Educate us. Talk to the audience about those things.
I love it. That's a great list, Shelley. So the first thing that comes to my mind is intimidation. So if you're trying to hire a veteran, it can be intimidating because you don't know what kind of person you're getting if you're not involved in the military in any way. So people that we've talked to that have hired veterans have all said things like, I wasn't sure what I was getting. Am I going to get like Rambo to come in my office? Is he going to be wearing military fatigues? Is he going to be talking about killing people? Is he going to be, going crazy? Does he have PTSD? Is he going to blow up on us if we tell him to do something? Like, we don't know. And the reason why they don't know is because they don't know many veterans and they haven't asked those questions. And there's not a program or a process in place to help them understand the mindset of a veteran. A veteran at the same time, they're getting out of the military. They were living a life full of purpose. Now, granted, they weren't making a whole lot of money, and that may or may not have been very important to them, but they had a life of purpose. They were serving their country. They were doing something more than focusing on themselves, and that's important. So when they leave the military, they think to themselves, I need to have purpose again. I need to have something. I need to do something full of purpose. When you ask a veteran, okay, what do you want to do? A lot of times they say, anything, whatever, I don't care, anything. And that's such a unique mindset for the civilians in the civilian sector because they have a very specific job. And this is what I do. And I don't know how to do anyone else's job, but I'm an expert at this. In the military, like you said, Shelley, every 2 or 3 years, you get promoted or you get a different duty and responsibility. And a lot of times you have no idea how to do that. For example, as an officer, you generally start out as platoon leader in whatever branch you're in, and then you kind of graduate to be the executive officer. And I remember when I graduated to be the executive officer, I was promoted to first lieutenant, and I sat down in my first XO or executive officer meeting, and the people there were throwing out so many acronyms, and they were talking about all these things. I had no idea what they were talking about. And I didn't want to look like a dumbass, so I didn't stop them every sentence and say, okay, hold on a second, what's that? I just had a green notebook, and I wrote it all down. I was like, okay, I'm way in over my head. This is super intimidating. And I went back and I talked to the old XO and I said, hey man, what does all this stuff mean? And he laughed a little bit. He's like, dude, I went through the same thing. Okay, let's sit down. And he went through everything with me. And after a month or two, I knew everything I needed to do in order to be a successful executive officer. And that's kind of the mindset that the military guys have going into the civilian sector is they are very good at being adaptable.
Yeah.
And I think that's what sets military guys apart from the civilian sector is give me any job, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'll be good at it. And so I would leave you with that. Like, what do you think about that?
I love that. The one thing that you said that I wrote down was that sense of purpose. And with all of the talk in the news and articles around company culture and workplace culture, everybody wants to be seen, valued, and heard. It kind of equates to that purpose portion. And who doesn't want somebody who wants purpose on their team? I mean, hello, right?
Yeah.
Who doesn't want somebody who's adaptable? The adaptability is it is the biggest that sense of speed of change or desire for change, whether we live in the need for the consistency, the variety, that is the very thing that causes the most turnover. I mean, any article that you read from HBR who's dove in, or Gallup, or a predictive index, they all talk about, well, we are not on that same page, that same pace. And yet here's the entire thousands of people that are coming out that have been taught to manage to live through the stress and the change and that adaptability. And so let's name some core competencies. So adaptability certainly comes out, military. What are some other things that you think of? The resiliency comes out.
Oh, no question. So adaptability, resiliency, grit.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love that.
Self-belief, I think, is a big thing because, you're forced to do so many things. You're forced to learn on the fly. And when you're forced to do so many things so often, you gain confidence in that.
Yeah.
And so being adaptable, you gain confidence. Believing in yourself, you continue to gain confidence. I remember I was at an event a few years ago, and it was kind of like a round robin deal where a lot of business leaders were in attendance, and you kind of got a chance to ask questions from anybody in the circle. And I remember a very successful female CEO in New York looked over at me and she's like, Jason, my biggest problem is I feel like a fraud.
Mm.
And I thought, wow, okay. And she was like, how do you stop from feeling like a fraud? And I took a step back and I was like, wow, I really don't feel like a fraud,
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then I thought more about it and I thought to myself, well, I can see how, people can feel like that. Like when you don't have all the answers and nobody has all the answers,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
but
can
we're
start.
in fear of admitting that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to not know you don't have all the answers, but I think there's a fine line between not having all the answers and being, a fraud,
Yeah.
And I think vulnerability is a huge component to the veteran community. Like we conduct after action reviews and we are very blunt and open and honest in our assessments. And we say, this is what we did well during the operation. This is what we did poorly during the operation. Now let's really focus all of our time on what we did poorly so we can improve for our next time. And I think that's another component that's very important.
I don't think there's
Another
one.
factor.
No, I don't think there's one training session that I have done that when I learned about, I actually, one of my favorite managers that I hired, Damian Paluchek, I love him to death, full military background and clean cut. I called him a kid when he came in back in my Marriott days. And the very first thing that he taught me was the recon that is done afterwards. I let him do the meeting. I was mentoring, and we had just had as a matter of fact, the Wu-Tang gang had overtaken our Courtyard Hotel after a concert. And we thought we had all kinds of security. We thought we had talked to the police to make sure that, that the hotel would remain intact. Well, they ended up getting interviewed that day on a radio station. And bless their hearts, they announced to everyone in Hampton Roads that they were staying at the Courtyard by Marriott by the Coliseum on Coliseum Drive. And so anyways, that night, we lost control of our hotel. And the funny story is I called the police, and the police came in. They literally took the entire third floor. Everybody just visited the hotel, as you say. And the police came in and turned around and left and said, ma'am, there's nothing we can do. But at any rate, good old Damien, the next day, he's like, Shelly, we need to have a meeting. We need to talk about last night. I was like, yeah, that was a big cluster mess up. It wasn't good. Anyways, he pulled in a flip chart. He pulled in all of the managers and he said, let's talk about what we did right. And let's talk about what we did wrong. And let's focus in the middle so we don't ever do it wrong again. And I was like, dude, how do you know this? And he's like, we did it. After every single military maneuver we had, assignment we had, we always did this meeting. And I was like, oh my God, I love it. And I've done that ever since. In every training, I talk to people about that. So that to me is one of the favorite things that you guys get wholeheartedly. And what manager and what organization doesn't want to know the lessons learned so we can keep doing those things that make us rock stars and stop doing those things that cause fires? I feel like companies should walk around with the first day that they onboard people, they need to give them fire retardant uniforms, and they need to give them fire hose extinguishers because of all the fires every day. I mean, you hear that. People talk about the whirlwinds that are happening every single day. I can't get anything done because I'm always putting out fires. Well, here's your fire retardant jacket and here's your extinguisher, go at it. I kind of think is what we do. And I think we're missing the boat by not hiring individuals that are taught this over and over and over. And you're not only taught it, you're practitioners of it. And I just think that we need to do a better job at being able to look at a resume and, number one, help an individual who has only been in the military and doesn't know how to translate all their amazing skills. And for those who have never been in the military and they're interviewing, you need to be open and you need to be, conscious about your biases. I love that you opened up with all of those things that people fear. You know, PSTD is not a bad word. And I think we just, you know, need to have the dialogue. So I love that. And then the reason why I got up while you were talking is I happened to be at my bookcase, and one of my books, Brass Ovaries, um, the, the female CEO that you talked about. When I was writing this book, one of the things that I found out through interviewing, and it's not just a woman thing because I talk to men too, is that fraud feeling. And it blew my mind away that so many people felt like that. And it comes back to our own insecurities of not admitting, if we don't know something, as if that's a bad thing. And I still, that it to me is mind blowing. Man, if I don't know something, I'm the first to say, I don't know. You know, like the acronyms. The first time I went to a government contracting meeting, I didn't understand a word for 2 hours because it was acronym. And my notepad was full and I got lost. Anyways, you got to ask questions, right? So
Yeah.
let's change gears a little bit. So let's go back to Mission 60. And first of all, why don't you tell everybody, not on the science team, but tell everybody who is on the team and how that got formed. And then I want you to lead into the book. But first, tell everybody who's on the team with you, not the science team.
Oh, the veteran-only team?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So I'm very excited about this company. We've been running for 6 years. We've got some unbelievable military celebrities and military heroes. We've got one of my closest here. So Nate and I earned our Green Berets together. We served in Intensive Forces Group together. We deployed to Iraq together. And he decided to go National Guard and go to the University of Texas to get his degree. And while he was there, he tried out ball as a 29-year-old true freshman walk-on. Never played football a day before in his life, and he made the team. And he became a starter for the University of Texas Longhorns at long snapper. Won the Disney Spirit Award in 2013, I believe, for the most inspirational college football player. He got picked up by the Seattle Seahawks, and he played in the NFL for a little bit. He wrote an open letter to Colin Kaepernick, the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, when he was sitting on the bench during the national anthem. And he became friends with Colin and kind of talked with him about what he was doing and kind of gave him his opinion on that and tried to get him to honor and respect the flag a little bit more. So he's on the team, and he's fantastic. He's really involved in the social justice in our country right now. I've got 2 Medal of Honor recipients on our team. We've got Leroy Petrie, who earned the Medal of Honor in Afghanistan. I can go all day about his story. I get emotional telling it, but essentially a grenade was thrown into his position, landed behind 2 of his soldiers. He picked up the grenade, threw it away. As he threw the grenade, it blew up in his hand and blew off his arm in his hand. He essentially put a tourniquet on his right arm to stop the bleeding, switched his weapon from his right arm to his left arm, and continued fighting. So he got his guys to safety. He got shot to the legs, kept moving, took out an entire group of Taliban. The guy's just absolutely unbelievable. And the other Medal of Honor recipient we have is a good friend of mine named Flo Groberg. He was born in France. He immigrated to the United States when he was 13 years old, learned English, went to the University of Maryland, joined the military, United States military after 9/11, renounced his French citizenship to do that. And while he was serving in Afghanistan, he tackled a suicide bomber, and the vest went off on Flo, and he saved the lives of a number of people around him because he took the initiative to tackle that suicide bomber. You know, we've got Steve Mueller on the team. And Shelly, please stop me if I'm going too long.
No.
You know, I can talk about the guys all day, but Steve is he's a Green Beret, a Navy SEAL, and an Army Ranger. So he did the trifecta.
Crazy.
So like that's unheard of. And he tried to join the NFL as well, and just an unbelievable guy. I've got a friend, Green Beret Joe Cerna, and Joe went through some crazy experiences in Iraq and Afghanistan. A suicide bomber blew up on him. He was in an RG-33 gun truck, which is like a big armored, large truck that flipped over into an aqueduct, and everybody in the vehicle drowned except for Joe. He survived. Been in a number of gunfights, number of IED blasts. He's on the team, and he suffers from significant PTSD, and he's kind of recovering from that. Recently, he went to jail for violating some conditions of his situation. He wasn't allowed to drink alcohol, and found out that he was drinking alcohol. So the judge sent him to jail for one night, one day. And the judge in North Carolina actually joined Joe in the jail cell, and it was all over the news. And Joe and this judge spent the night together, and the judge didn't want Joe to suffer from his PTSD, being in confined spaces by himself, sort of thing. So it was a great thing. Mm-hmm. We've got Pat Mather on the team, another Green Beret West Point guy, CIA guy. We've got Casey Maxted, who's a Green Beret FBI guy. Let's see. We have Joey Jones, who's a Marine, double amputee, stepped in IED in Afghanistan a few years ago. But we have 21 people total, and the quality of the people that we have on the team really is what sets us apart from other organizations.
Yeah. I got a phone call from Sarah telling me a little bit when you guys are kind of going through an adjustment, if you will, or refocus. And when I went on the website and started reading the stories and then hearing how you were intentionally bringing, like we started this culture hour today, bringing the talent in and the stories and helping organizations. And I know that you've done a lot with the NFL, various teams, as well as some other corporate teams. But I will, on a serious note, thank everybody who is probably watching today, or on behalf of them, for everything that you've done and everything that the entire veteran teams have done, because it's chilling. It's chilling. So, and amazing. So thank you for that. If you guys want to hear more about Mission 60 and the things that they do, it's a very different way to get at the leadership needs and the team needs through these various domains, and it's pretty cool. But one of the things that, to switch gears a little bit, and then we'll start to wrap up, is that, Jason, you have been in the middle of writing a book. Yes. Through the pivots that you're doing, you're writing a book that I've seen some of the chapters, and they will take the breath away from you. The stories, not just because that they're real, but the manner in which you're writing them, and then bringing the domain realism behind it, which I think is an amazing way to do it. But this is a pretty, people say that they write raw books, or this is a very raw, real, down to it, authentic, transparent book. And it's gonna be a must read. And I know we talked about putting some, strong language in the beginning, that be ready for what it is that you're about to read, because this is, it's going to be pretty amazing. And I think it'll be life-changing for a lot of people. It will open up their eyes. But the applicability that you're telling in the stories is what I love. So is there a way in a couple of minutes to kind of summate what's going on with the book, maybe the title of the book, maybe some of the chapters? I don't know. How can you best describe the book and get the juices flowing for everybody?
That's a great description that you just gave for the book. We don't have a title yet. I was told that the publisher really needs to decide from some options. So we have a number of options for the book, but it's, like you said, it's raw, it's authentic. Each chapter focuses on our vulnerability and our inner dialogue. So it's very, at times it can be very dark, at times it can be very humorous, but above all else, it's true. So everything that we write is true. The overall theme of the book is getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. We felt like that was a theme that really resonated with our clients and our audience. And so the book follows a special forces team that goes into combat for the first time. And it follows them from when the captain meets his boss, his commander, in the first chapter. And that commander onboards the captain, talks to him about what to expect. And then the next chapter, the captain meets his team. And so each chapter takes on a different perspective from one of the members on the team. So the first chapter is from the captain's perspective. So he's in the he's in the first person. The next chapter is from Steve Mueller's perspective, who's on our team, from his impressions of meeting the captain and also talking about the team. It follows the team into isolation and the planning process, and it follows them into combat. So each chapter follows a different person on the team. It has a different theme. It resonates with a different strength in our total warrior strength model. And following each chapter, we have scientific analysis. So it basically talks to us about what just happened, so what, and now what. So what does this mean to me? I'm never going to go into combat. I'm not going to fight, a terrorist organization. But how can I learn from this individual so that I can apply these principles to my personal and professional life, so that I can perform at my best when it matters the most? And if we follow the team as they go into combat, and then a few of the guys get injured in combat, a few of the guys die in combat, which really happened. We've got Flo Groberg's story and Leroy Petrie's story, and we've got Joey Jones' story, and we've got, our assessment, our thoughts on the people. That we help serve, on how different they different have. We talk a little bit about Dan Quinn and Charles Martland in the book, and their experiences with one of their Afghan commanders kidnapping and raping a young boy. And when that Afghan commander was confronted, he laughed it off. And Dan and Charles took it into their own hands and physically assaulted this Afghan commander. And they were both originally kicked out of the military. Charles was let back in, and tough situation there, but very powerful book, and we hope it resonates. I don't want to screw this thing up. I know it's going to be the content is there, Shelly. It's all done. We just need to edit it right now, and I want this thing to really make an impact in a positive way for our audience, our fans, our clients.
Love it. Love it. Like I said, I've taken away by a few of the chapters that I've read, and I can't wait to read the whole thing. And I love that marry of the real experience with the now what, so what, and making it applicable to everybody who reads it is going to have not 1, 2, 3, but probably 10, 15, 20 takeaways and things sitting on their shoulder that kind of, I call them triggers in a positive way, that will just make us stop, think, and pause with how we interact, how we have our own biases in some cases, and how we can just better mankind by the element of influence and interaction. And I love it, and I can't wait to read the whole thing. I do think it's a game changer. For those who are ready to do it, or to read it and to be able to absorb it. I even found myself reading, when you would say weigh in on this chapter from the social domain strength, reading it where I was like, oh, I got to put this down because, it's in a positive way, but it was like, wow. And so of course I loved that. So we have gone longer than I normally do because Jason Van Camp is just so awesome to have on our show today. So Jason, how can people get in contact with you? I will put it at the bottom as you're talking, but why don't you, how can they best reach you?
So to reach Mission 60, to reach us for any type of performance-based and enhancement, reach us at the email Jason, Jason, at mission60, that's MISSION, the number 6, ZERO.com. Our business number is 571-435-0337. Our website is www.mission60.com, MISSION, the number 6, ZERO. And then, we also have a nonprofit organization called Warrior Rising, and we help veterans start or accelerate their own businesses. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to warriorrising.org. And those are the two organizations I'm involved with. So
beautiful. Thank you so much for your time today. A couple of takeaways I want to remind the listeners, notes that I put down was get comfortable with the uncomfortable. I
Yeah.
love that. I hope that's the title of the book or the subtitle. I love that. I love that, love that. And the other thing is going back to how we opened. I implore those of you who are, have the ability to hire, that you really look at applications that are coming across from our veterans, and that you dig into the resume, get them to tell stories. They will be able to tell a story, and you'll be able to pull out those competencies. Don't get caught that they can't define the language. Just listen to them, because
Yes.
there's amazing men and women out there who aren't getting hired, and unemployment is low right now, and you've got to entirely, you got to tap into it. So just listen and ask
Perfectly
questions.
said.
So, all right. On behalf of Elizabeth Valise, my partner who is absent today, and Shelley Smith, we thank you for joining us in for another episode of the Culture Hour, and our special guest, Jason Van Camp, the owner of Mission 60. Until then, peace out, everybody. Have a great day. And remember, culture matters.